so much for joining us. Today's session is Seeds of Success, adding the O, unpacking farmer perspectives and experiences transitioning to organic. My name is Mary Hathaway, and I'm the Research and Education Program Manager here with OFRF, and I get the great joy of being the host for today's webinar. We are joined by Mike Bronkema of Shady Farm. Mike has been farming since 1992 and transitioned to certified organic in 2008. He and his wife Lana are first-generation farmers. And when a neighboring farmer was getting ready to retire and wanted to see his land stay in agriculture, Mike and Lana took over. At that time, the farm was primarily a chicken operation, raising pullets for egg production. They kept that up for the first couple years, and then they slowly began to diversify the 150-acre operation. They currently grow 20 different varieties of edible dry beans, as well as heritage small grains like einkorn and spelt, as well as open-pollinated corn. We're also going to hear today from Dakota Moore of Moore Family Farms. Dakota was raised on the historic Moore Family Farm in Warsaw, North Carolina, which has been around since 1833. And he grew up immersed in the values of sustainable and regenerative agriculture. He completed his Bachelor's of Agriculture and Environmental Systems at North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, and in 2022, he and his father transitioned the farm to organic. Their farm specializes in the production of watermelon, cantaloupe, cauliflower, collard greens, cabbage, butterhead, and romaine lettuces. And here's just a quick overview of our hour together. I'm really excited for today's topic. We know that educational and technical assistance needs are especially acute during the transition years when soil health might be below par, organic price premiums are not yet available, and producers face a really substantial learning curve. This could include things like building financially viable strategies for the first 3-year transition period, working really hard to restore that soil health while learning to manage weeds without herbicides. It can also be acquiring new equipment and figuring out the infrastructure you need for organic production, as well as navigating those National Organic Program related paperwork. Our Seeds of Success program is an opportunity to hear from your fellow farmers and ask questions about strategies for a successful transition to USDA certified organic. So after a brief introduction by me, our 2 farmers will give a presentation that will share their experiences and provide insights into their approach and process. Their presentations are going to be followed by a facilitated question and answer session. So please get those questions, answers coming into the chat. And we'll definitely save time so that you'll have a chance to get all your questions answered for them. I also do want to acknowledge our funders and partnerships in this program. So the Transition to Organic Partnership Program, or TOP, is a network assembled by the USDA's National Organic Program to support transitioning and organic producers with mentorships and resources. TOP supports organizations nationwide to help producers through the transition and certification process. This looks like mentorship, workshops, webinars, field days, technical assistance, and other educational events, which are a wonderful part of this USDA program. We really thank them for their support. This is a map of some of the great organizations. So if you're nearby, take a look. I'm sure there's some great resources or opportunities available near you. So my organization, the Organic Farming Research Foundation, is in partnership on this project with the Organic Farmers Association and the National Organic Coalition. We've started this series of virtual coffee shops, which we're calling Seeds of Success, that is a part of this funding. And this series of webinars focuses on organic research topics and issues farmers prioritize as having the greatest impact on their day-to-day operations. Our hope with these is that they're conversations that will support farmer-driven solutions and information sharing and really identify areas for future research and support. We really appreciate you joining us and being a part of them. And I do want to share a little bit about my organization, the Organic Farming Research Foundation. We are a national nonprofit that was organized in 1990, and we work to advance the organic agriculture through scientific research. We are a champion of organic farmers across the United States, and we work to foster the improvement and widespread adoption of organic farming systems by cultivating organic research, education, and federal policies that bring more farmers and acreage into organic production. We do this in three key ways. So our research really has been foundational to the work that we do. From the beginning, OFRF has worked to ensure that there's funding for organic research, making sure that if we want to promote this system, we have scientific information backing it up and really informing how farmers can improve their operation. And we work to make sure that that's there for not just the economic prosperity, but also that ecological sustainability and the practices we need for organic farming. This goes hand in hand with our educational resource. We love to translate that research into actionable, accessible, and really valuable resources that farmers can use in their day-to-day operations. These are all free and available on our website, and they look like guidebooks. We have online courses, fact sheets, recorded webinars, and more. So please do check out our website for some of our free educational materials. Our third piece in big core area is advocating for federal programs and policies that make a difference to organic farmers. We work really hard to make sure the voices of organic farmers and ranchers in the United States are heard and Capitol Hill and beyond. And we've been instrumental in securing funding for policies and programs that support organic farmers. And I just want to make another mention, since we're talking about organic and transitioning, and just some great opportunities we also have. One of our new programs within research is our farmer-led trial program, which is also a top-funded program. The application portal for this is open now. I hope you consider checking it out if you are a organic farmer or a farmer in transition and have something you want to trial on your farm, have something you want to test that would have an impact on your production practices. Another new program that's coming out soon is our Organic Research Hub, which is an online centralized research hub that's going to have research summaries. It'll have technical resources. It's basically aggregating a lot of that science-based things and making them accessible and easily searchable. This should be available on our website come February of 2025, hopefully, fingers crossed, coming soon. So please keep your eye out for that. And we really are a science-based organization, and we work hard to fund and share and promote organic research. But along with that, we know that organic farmers want to hear from other organic farmers. So we've been really excited to get this chance to provide a space for farmers to share what their journey, what their experience has been. So let's keep us moving. Let's go ahead and get started. And with that, I want to hand it over to Dakota. Dakota, please take it on.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dakota Moore, the farm manager and co-founder of Moore Family Farms. My father would like to call me the brains of the new operation, the organic operation. I even live in my great-grandfather's old home that's being refurbished. So our roots truly do run deep. So let's just get us started with our Moore Family Farms mission statement. So Moore Family Farms grows nutrient-rich organic produce through sustainable regenerative practices, honoring our 1833 legacy, while nurturing soil, community, and environmental health for a resilient future. I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University, go Aggies, with a degree in agriculture and environmental systems. So I am truly immersed in sustainability, and growing up on a historic farm like Moore Family Farms allows me to know more about the importance of environmental health and nurturing our community. Next slide. So let's just start off with a little bit of an overview of what Moore Family Farms is. So Moore Family Farms was established in 1833 by my great-great-grandfather, Aaron Moore, who was passed down to my great-grandfather, Isaiah, my grandfather who farmed with his brothers, Ivory, Leonard, Erie, and my grandfather, James. He passed it to my father, Robert Moore, the owner, who was in charge of the row crop and tobacco operation from 99 to 2018, where I took over in 2018 to kind of like shift us towards a more so organic, sustainable future. My sister, Raven Moore, is in charge of logistics and record keeping, and I must say to myself, she does an amazing job. We had to hire her for record keeping because we shifted into organic, and that is very important. So currently, our farm mainly focuses on fruits and vegetables, growing crops like collards, lettuce, cabbage, cauliflower, watermelon, and cantaloupes. We try not to pigeonhole ourselves with one single variety. So we grow multiple varieties of every crop here that you see listed here. So of collard greens, we grow Flash and Georgia Southern. That's what we got right now. Lettuce, we grow a red Butterhead lettuce, a original Butterhead lettuce, and a romaine lettuce. We have one variety of cabbage, which is Botran. We have one variety of cauliflower, which is the twister variety, which is a self-blanching variety. So it takes a little bit of the labor intensivity out of it. And for the watermelon and cantaloupe over the summer, we had 6 varieties of watermelon and 2 varieties of cantaloupe. It was a lot to keep up with, so we try to flag it out to make sure that we know what we're dealing with and what we could grow and what it needed at what time. So our main markets were generally wholesale, which was Happy Dirt. Happy Dirt is a farmer-owned company that mainly focuses on working with high-end companies such as Harris Teeter, Wegmans, Lowe's Foods, high-end grocers. And we saw the importance of dealing with our local community, people who wouldn't naturally have the opportunity of getting fresh organic produce. So we started working with the Second Far Harvest Food Bank of Southeastern North Carolina. They pretty much support a lot of the food that goes to donation in Southeastern North Carolina. Next slide. So why we decided to transition. Our farm was founded on the principles of sustainability. Back in 1833 and the latter portion of the 19th, early 20th century, my family were already using some of the regenerative practices that we see going on today. We're not leaving the ground bare when most people were. They would usually grow some sort of deer corn or something that was there, so that way we would not lead to erosion and things of that nature. Our farm was revived on organic and sustainable principles back in 2018, focusing on sustainable practices to honor our heritage while also adapting to modern trends. While I was in college working on the university farm, I saw that I was known as the farmer kid. I know I went to an agricultural school, but you wouldn't be known that way if you went there. Most people were involved in engineering or business majors. So when they saw me, they were like, "Oh, that's the guy who works on the farm." They were asking me, where do I get organic produce? Where should I even start? So I saw the trend when college kids are asking you where is the organic produce, things are changing. So that was a part of some of the key drivers, seeing that the market demand was changing. And we had a passion for environmental stewardship, which made us go organic. Next slide. So some of the challenges for nutrient and management and soil fertility. First things first, you should get a soil test. Know what you're dealing with under the topsoil. Know what your pH is. Know what your soil texture is. So that way you know what you can grow and what amendments need to be made in the soil. So our soil is a sandy loam. We figured we could grow mostly anything, but we noticed that the nutrients were quickly leaving the soil because of that sand. So we started to focus on organic matter, crop rotations, and cover crops. When we grew this cover crop from Hancock seeds, which included crimson clover, rye, oats, radishes, turnips, it enhanced soil structure and improved our nitrogen fixation and protected our soil during the off season. When we were terminating our cover crop, we saw that it was having at least 2 to 3 tons of organic matter and on the top biomass. So we saw that it was building up that soil texture, building up that nutrients. And with us being somewhat regenerative, we did not till the soil. We let that nutrients build up, and we would only till once out of every growing season. Uh, we also explore the idea of livestock manure and cow poultry and poultry litter as a resource, but we kind of moved away from that because there's a 90 to 120 day off period that you can't use your soil. You can't use it. So we decided to mostly focus on cover crops and changing that crop rotation period. So as you can see in the photos here, we have our Hancock fall cover crop mix that looked beautiful in its final week before we terminated it, and we terminated it laid out plastic, and when we lay out plastic, we broadcast a another fall cover crop mix that would come up, and we would lay it down to deal with all of that, all the weeds, and to deal with the moisture that would happen if it rained too much and things of that nature. Next slide. So another challenges were weeds and pests. So on our farm, we usually hand remove weeds. We don't use synthetic herbicides, no any type of herbicide actually. We figured that it would be labor intensive, so we decided to get interns and people to work with us who wanted to learn more about agriculture. This is one of our interns right here, Amari. He's a ninth grader who wanted to learn more about agriculture. So we're just giving him hands-on research of what's going on. We also relied on manually removing and crop rotations to minimize the weed pressure, and which can be which can be time consuming, but essential for organic compliance. Like I said, broadcasting that cover crop mix, suppressing those weeds. And when we had people like Amari come and harvest, they would lay down that cover crop mix to the point where it would sit on top to suffocate the weeds. For pest control, we would hand remove insects like caterpillars and beetles to avoid using synthetic pesticides. And we will also use companion planting to naturally reduce the pest populations. In this bottom photo, you can see us preparing our land for a companion planting operation. And on the two sides, you can see it's very grassy. That's our cover crop. It would come up. The cover crop would attract mostly grasshoppers and beetles and caterpillars, things of that nature, and they would be abundant in that area, but they would not affect our cantaloupes or our watermelons over the summer seasons. So it would be perfect. So definitely look into companion planting. Next slide. Record keeping, that's another challenge. It's essential for organic certification and GAP certification, also known as good agricultural practices. If you are looking to get certified organic, please do expect the first inspection to be a little bit more not intrusive, but they're a lot more they look more into what you're doing. So definitely have these records available so that way you can know what you're doing, and it opens up a line of transparency for the inspector and yourself. It also helps you manage your field notes and rotations and fertilizers so that way they can know what you're using. And it's okay. We notice that it's okay for us to know what we're using, because if you don't take a picture of it, it's kind of hard to remember what you're using. So if you keep notes and records of what you're doing, it's easier for you to know what's happening on a day-to-day basis. It does add an extra amount of administrative work on a farm, but it ensures transparency as well as making it easier to track your operation. So we decided to hire a total person, my little sister, and she's been amazing at it. As you can see in these records, she's making sure that we're in tip-top shape with dates, activity, uh, things that are happening on what location the field is at, what crop is being grown at the time, and some of the details that was seen when we're out there. So I just go out there, write a few notes in my phone. The phone is one of the most important things that you can use in today's technology. So definitely write a few notes on your phone, and then we give it back to my sister, and she would just write it up into a spreadsheet. Next slide. So some of the helpful takeaways and resources that I've noticed that I've used, my agricultural degree, my hands-on experience at NC University Farm, and an internship with the Organic Farming Research Foundation. I've noticed that on the farm, I saw the latest trends that were happening in research, and with OFRF, I saw it when I was entering in transitioning to organic research hub information. I saw most of the new trends that were happening in organic, so it was helping my farm grow as well as helping other farmers know what to expect. Also noticed that networking with other organic farmers helps me know what to expect when I am doing an organic when I am growing in an organic operation. Other people who've been doing this 10, 15 years plus, they know what to kind of expect when you're going into the organic realm. So definitely open up those channels with other organic farmers. Networking with farmer services at OFA. They've been amazing, giving us all the latest legislation that's happening. Crop insurance, that's very important. We've noticed that we were talking last week in a meeting with OFA and their farmer services department that most farms don't even know that there's whole farm insurance for a organic farm. That covers everything that you're doing if you're in an operation like myself, a vegetable operation where everything we grow is tied to our income. So definitely look into crop insurance. That's very important. Next slide. Rooms for improvement. Needs for better resources on organic weed pest control. For my operation, we are more so labor intensive. So for me, that would mean getting better access to labor. Right now, we're using interns, but we know when school starts, things like that kind of affect our workflow. So we need better resources when it comes to hiring labor. Financial support for infrastructure improvements like irrigation, storage facilities, and season extension like high tunnels. So this infrastructure is important when you're talking about an organic operation because you want to extend that season so a high tunnel can have you growing rather than if you didn't have one all from June to October, you can grow year round now. Irrigation, those high tunnels need to be there's no rainfall, so you need irrigation inside those high tunnels and storage facilities. In an organic operation that in any operation that is farming related, with you're dealing with food, you have to have a freezer of some sort to store your food. You need those things for your farm to stay afloat as well as keep your produce cold. So the organic cost share program also offsets some of the certification fees, but also additionally funding is needed for infrastructure, such as high tunnels to extend the season, walk-in freezers, and refrigerated trucks. But for refrigerated trucks, we noticed that if you kind of work with the wholesaler, they may have refrigerated trucks that will come get your produce for you. That's how we get ours to market. So things, if you don't ask, you won't know. So I was always told if you ask not, you won't have not. So you definitely ask because you never know what they can do. Next slide. And additional tips, start small with organic practices, build gradually. Don't start with 100 acres of watermelons because if you're doing it my way, it's labor intensive. If you don't have those hands, you'll never get anything done. Utilize the cost share program and reduce those certification fees to transition to organic, make that transition to organic more affordable. They pay 75% of the upfront costs. So definitely look into the cost share program. Network with local agricultural groups are key. RAFI, the Certified Carolina Farm Stewards, OFA, OFRF, people like that. They're helping small farms. Look up those agricultural groups. They're very key. Next slide. And lessons learned. So learning to balance scale, profitability, and sustainability. That means don't get in over your head. Have some wiggle room. Have a contingency fund, but also think about the future because you never know what could happen. For me, my refrigerator broke and I had a freezer. The freezer is perfect because if I have a freezer, I can put all of my produce and things in that freezer rather than just being without. So I always have a contingency plan. Invest in essential infrastructure such as high tunnels for season extension, walk-in freezers, and long-term storage and refrigerated trucks. Just definitely invest into the infrastructure. Organic farming is very labor intensive, but rewarding when you leverage things like season extension techniques with high tunnels to increase those crop yields. Offer those produce outside the typical growing season. Like I said, growing in a longer period rather than growing in a shorter period. June to August is way shorter than year round. We can all agree on that. Next slide, please. And so what's next in our future goals? So we want to expand into new markets, such as opening a pick your own site on our farm. We're actually in the process of buying trees on our farm to have people come out, pick their own fruits off of these trees and buy them. It's great for agritourism and even a great date idea. So if you ever have a girlfriend and you're in southeastern North Carolina, look up More Family Farms. We also want to expand into opening our own community farmers market and community hub. We're all about the community and providing food for our local people in our area. So if we do that, we can always grow our community. We always wanted to have our people in our community having more options for healthy options. So definitely opening that community hub. We also want to experiment with new crops such as in livestock systems. We want to get into organic grass-fed goats and cattle, and we want to do some strawberries on the side. I also mentioned those trees and fruit and shrubs. We also want to implement more high tunnels on our farm. We know that leveraging that growing season outside of the norm is probably our access into increasing revenue by also offering it early and late season produce. It also protects us from crops from weather variability, because we all know climate change is real and it is changing how our farmers are growing. So when we have a controlled environment, it helps us grow year round and protects us from different climate options. That's my time, guys. I'm Dakota Moore, and if you have any questions, please load them in the chat. I'm happy to answer anything that you didn't know. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Dakota. That was great. I'm going to move us next to Mike Bronkema from Shady Side Farm. And please remember, if you have any questions for Dakota or for Mike, please add them to the chat. Mike, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Thanks, Mary. It's been fun. I enjoyed listening to you again, Dakota, and I'll encourage those people. Chat is a great way to add our questions in there. I didn't see much for you, Dakota, but you did a wonderful job there. But there's going to be a lot more questions, I hope, when we get to the question and answer session. So a brief interview of my farm. I am the sole worker out there. I am doing most of all the mechanical stuff on the farm, keeping everything running. I do appreciate my wife. She handles the logistics sides on the computer and all that stuff. We started in 1992. We're first generation farmers. When we walked into here, we didn't know what we were walking into. It was a pullet operation run by a retiring farmer that wanted to see his farm continue as farmland. That left us with a big responsibility that we're finding out today as we're getting into that same position here. We currently are growing corn and soy, or not soybeans, but dry beans. We grow the einkorn and spelt. All these things that we are growing, we're currently marketing direct to the farmers markets. So everything that we have is not hitting the commodity side. It's going direct to consumers, which makes us dependent on people that are going to the farmers markets. So we started here. We had 100 acres, 120 acres that we bought. My in-laws, which actually were across the street, had another 35 acres that we were able to work with. And then we had one little farmer that was next door that loved what we were doing and wanted to see his farm preserved too. So we actually ended up with that one too. So today we're working on 146 acres. This whole transition that for us started was totally unintentional. I enjoyed what I was doing in chickens, but it was something that I could see the writing on the wall as the chicken industry integrated and become bigger. It didn't have room for a small producer. By the time I retired out, I was less than, what do you want to say, like a third of a coop filling it up. And then the coops got bigger than that, where they were filling with about 3 times my size. So we knew we were on our way out. Part of what we were doing when you're raising pullets is you get everything brought to the farm because we're under contract. The chickens are brought in a day old. The feed is all brought to the farm, but you're expected to handle the manure situation. That is what really pushed us in a different direction with our farm. So we started there. We looked at going into composting. This all happened back in 2000. We started using some of the government programs that were out there. For us, Michigan has some unique ones because we are surrounded by water and water is so important to our state. We started implementing organic practices without thinking about them, just as environmental practices. With that said, the composting that we were doing gave me an education. I had to work with our Department of Environmental Quality, now called Eagle, trying to work through how we could do this composting stuff. And basically learned a lot about composting. And today I do composting totally different than what I did then. But I learned the rules for composting, understand the rules, and understand how to break them. And I am enjoying what I'm doing here today, breaking some of those rules because we're concentrating on the biology that's created when you're doing compost. So that's where we started. We added in sheep because we were having that manure issue. We couldn't keep spreading that stuff on our cropland, so we added in sheep. Within those sheep, all of a sudden you learn you have parasites. As the parasites got to be too invasive with the sheep, we decided we had to change our practices. Rotational grazing came in. We also then decided to add in cattle to our picture. That was when we were certified organic. So we bought certified cows. They are the belted Galloways, lovingly called Oreos. When we added them in and rotational grazed those, that helped with the parasite control in our sheep. Our sheep currently are not certified organic. Could we? Yes, because we're doing all organic practices with them. And less than 10% of our sheep flock currently this year has, in fact, this year I don't think I've even used any parasitical drugs on them. I've all done it naturally and holistically. So we are gaining on that, but there's not a big market for sheep in the organics. With a cost increase in dollars and cents, just doesn't make a lot of sense to certify our sheep. Cattle, on the other hand, it's a little longer term. It makes more sense to keep those records good and continue on with those. So as we progressed, our challenge on our farm was, like I said, this fertility issues. We had chicken manure. It had been applied by the previous farmer before I got there, and I continued the same practices, but I expanded the chickens and didn't realize how much phosphorus I was putting on my soils. We actually over applied the phosphorus. I was over 3 times the limit what we were allowed to have in the state of Michigan. And currently we've gotten those numbers, working organically, working with the compost, not the ways that have been taught in the universities, but learning how to work with it with the biology has actually helped us to reduce that phosphorus in our soils, helped with plant uptake of those nutritional levels and that stuff. So as to record keeping and that stuff, I have 30 years of soil records here. As a lot of beginning farmers start, if you're first generation in, that is one piece that you forget to ask for, is the soil records. What happens on the soil? What was applied to those soils? And how you can reverse some of those issues that are out there are things you're going to have to learn when you're into organics and organic production. And as Dakota said, weeds and pests are a huge issue. And as we've been transitioning here, Since 2008, we were certified organic, or started our transition. In 10, we were certified. And during that time, I've learned a lot, and I'd love to share it, but it takes a lot more time than what I have here. But we've been able to see those pests go down as we corrected the soil nutritional levels. We took our P levels down. We could actually raise our K, but we had to get it functioning with biology. And there's not enough information out there yet as to understand this biology in the soil that I'm talking about. But it's a huge thing that's coming up. It's a great resource that's going to have to be happening later. As to the record keeping, when we started doing our organic certification, we had notebooks, and I still work with notebooks. We do it all on the computer, but yet it's transferred over. I still like my paper copy. It's easier for me to actually flip to what I need to see as to find it sometimes on the computer stuff. But I do love the phone. It also gives me a great way to handle stuff out in the field. I just got to transfer that information around. But my soils notebook is another notebook. It's a standalone notebook with every field identified with all the products that's been on it, and to watch the nutrition as it's been going on. That said, as we've been working through the biology side of it, about 9 years ago, I actually was able to take and eliminate adding fertilizers to our soils. My input here on my farm then became the sawdust, the carbon sources that I'm adding into a little bit of manure here. My sheep overwinter in the barn, and that's where I can get my compost starter from. And then I add in a lot more carbon to it of sawdust and wood chips, creating a unique compost that I can use. Dakota talked about it. We do have to have that 100-day rotation, separation between our crops. And we can do that because we are rotating pastures. We tend to put these pastures out there to regenerate our land, where you can see where my beans are out there. It is a nice clean field. The thing that took me a lot of practice is that specialized equipment, but it doesn't have to be specialized. It has to be learned how to operate it correctly. To find these people, they're far and few between. I was fortunate enough to hire a consultant to help me with my compost, but he said before he'd help me with the compost, he wanted to help me with my soils and my fertilizer values. And I went, okay, I'll up for that. What I got a great friend. He helped me understand how to cultivate, how to do it properly. We started with old equipment, upgraded once, and tightened that machine up so that it could do a better job. And we are able to maintain our stuff really nicely with that. In the last 3 years, I've ran across some educational materials that'll come up in our resources availability things to look at later on. Mary will put that up later. We're not going to do that right now. But there's a book out there that's called When Weeds Talk. And When Weeds Talk, and if you can listen, most of us don't take time to listen today. And you guys are listening to us talk about this stuff. Weeds will actually tell you what's happening in your soil, and you can actually get down to grid sampling by just looking at the weeds that are coming up in your fields. That can help you with a lot of different things out there. So how could what can help us to improve ourselves? These meetings where we get together with other farmers to learn is a great resource. I have continued to go to conventional seminars because there is good information there. It may not be organic, but I can learn from them and learn how to implement some other practices. Cover crops. I don't get into cover crops a whole lot more because we have what we do with rotational grazing. We sacrifice one of our pastures one year at the end of the year. So overwintering, that field gets nibbled down to a little bit of grass, and then we can till that out early in the spring and set our next season up. So that field didn't even lay bare the year before we started. We can do our practices. We'll get our beans out there. As you can see, I grow a lot of beans. We have 20 different varieties of beans. That set me apart from the rest of the community out there. So when I'm marketing, I'm not fighting with other producers. I've got something unique that people are looking for. But that said, when I was doing beans, when I first started beans, I can remember cultivating, and the insect pressure, the aphids were so bad when you were going into the wind that they would sit on the tractor. My tractor grill would be green with aphids. And today, when I cultivate anymore, I've got it nice and clean. I don't even mind being out there because I got to get off the tractor and look at the grill to see if I still have aphids, and I do see them. The fun part comes at the end of the season when you're combining and you're putting all this stuff away and you're packaging, for me, my beans. I get to see all those, the walking sticks. You get to see the praying mantises, all these other insects that are beneficial for keeping the pests out of your fields. But yet, when you're also out there in the summertime, my fields are alive. When I can see the clover and you can walk out there and you're moving the animals every day, you get to see the butterflies that are out there. You can see the honeybees. You can hear all the other insects. I mean, my fields are abuzz with activity all summer. And I've had a lot of people stop out here and say, "What's that noise?" It's very interesting. But yet we can sit out here. We love to get done with farmers markets and communicate with our people that are helping us with our farmers markets on Saturday nights. After our market day, we're all tired, but yet they come out, we sit, we don't even have issues with flies, house flies, bugging us. We sitting in a nice, clean atmosphere. And the longer I've been doing this, I've been seeing that the predators are able to keep up with the pest better and better. So as I've been doing it, like I said, the guy I worked with, Joe, his bibliography was posted in Acres Magazine about a month or two ago. Currently, we got to think about Joe. He just suffered a heart attack this past weekend. So I'm looking at my consultant going, "I got to help you out, buddy, but thanks for getting me going." He got me a long ways at where I'm at. But I would encourage you, as you're looking at consultants, look for somebody that doesn't have a product for sale. Everybody wants to sell you something thinking their stuff is the best. Where I've come to be on my farm is I need very little of these products. Once you get your farm up and going and you get the biology working, it'll actually naturally take care of itself. That is one of the big things. Looking at our pastures, I used to think my pastures were good. Let me tell you, they get better as you go on. I used to be able to see these drainage ditches that I used to put in there for where the water would flow and they would flow off the field. Currently, we're not even having to put these field ditches in. The infiltration of rainwater is actually better absorbed with all this grasses and this grazing. It creates natural porosity in the soil. I've been working with our extension agents. They've been helping me understand it. We can see that when we have a 1-inch rainfall event, that I can actually soak that water up in about a minute and a half. So even if we do get a flooding rainfall event, those things have become non-issues around here. I very seldom have ponding water anymore on my farm, where when I walk off my farm, I can just feel it on the other soils that they don't have that infiltration out there. So those are some of the things that we've learned. One of the things that I did is when I changed, I jumped in both feet first into organic farming. What a challenge, but I did have a little fallback. I had my chickens still providing a little bit of income for about 5 years before I was totally immersed in the organics that I'm in today. You can do it, but you better have some way that you can figure out a nice way to monitor what you're doing and have a fallback program. When I started, I did not have access to the insurance programs. Those insurance programs have become much more friendlier to us as organic farmers, making it much easier to participate in those programs. I happen to be a very diversified farmer that levels my income off as I've done this with the sheep, the cows, the small grains, corn, dry beans. We're talking a 5 to 7 year rotation on our fields, allowing our fields to rest and allowing the disease pressure from each individual area to also go away from our farm. So as we're leaving here and as we're going forth from here, our transitioning things that are happening here yet, I happen to be at the age where I'm looking to retire, but I don't have time to retire. I have a lot more stuff that I want to learn. Like I said, that biology piece is huge, but I see it working and I want to see it continue to work. The next thing that we're doing is I have to transition away. I can only handle so much of what I'm doing on a farm. My body says you've put in your years of service, and it's not allowing me to quite keep up anymore. So we've taken on an intern that is interested in organic farming. He's coming to me with no background, just a little bit of tractor knowledge. And he's a young married man, and his wife is encouraging him to look at organic farming, and he's coming to me as a mentee. I plan to spend the next 2 or 3 years mentoring him, training in my practices, and after 2 or 3 years, I am hoping to start giving him access and making decisions as to how the farm changes. And I want to start retiring out. I want to be the one that's able to, ride the tractor and not have to think about all the logistics of what's going on in the farm. My wife would also like to do the same thing. She would love to pass off some of the farmer markets details to the other side. So we're looking at a transition as to how we do this, but yet we want to stay on and be available to them as mentors, but yet be able to share this knowledge that I've gained in these 15 years with others around us as we go out. So I'd love to take this time now. I'm going to turn back over to Mary that we can go over some questions. You can see these are some of the things that I've participated in. There's a great group of books there to read and understand. I'd encourage you guys, if you can take a screenshot of that, do that so you can grab some of those books and read them later.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Mike. I'll leave this screen up for just a little bit longer, but I want to say thanks so much to both you, Mike and Dakota, for such a great insights into kind of what your journey has been like. We do have a couple of questions here in the chat, and so I just want to go ahead and get us started with our last few minutes together with some question and answer. This first one comes from Anna Dirksey. Can both presenters speak to how they have connected to the broader organic community and how that has helped them? Mike, I'll go ahead and start with you since you're unmuted, and then Dakota will pass it on to you.
Just trying to find out who are the other organic producers. Michigan has the MOFA system, Michigan Organic Farming Systems. I've communicated with that group. It's a little different group than what I do, but it pays to be in touch with them. And I love to talk to other people about what they're doing. I have currently about 3 other farmers that are close to me, and we have good relationship with them. But I also have other grazers that are helping me understand the grazing program that we're doing here. So it's a long-term learning how to build those friendships up with other farmers in the area.
Thanks.
So I would say joining groups like Carolina Farm Stewards, OFA, Raffi, they have been essential in putting us into contact with other organic farmers and the process of getting GAP certified. They've helped us just connect with so many different farmers. And we even got a chance to speak with Jesse Bowie out of Mississippi, a Black farmer in Mississippi who transitioned to organic. He helped us just realize what to expect when we were going organic. So definitely joining groups like Raffi, Carolina Farm Stewards, and Organic Farmers Association.
Thanks to you both. That's really helpful. Dakota, you kind of answered one of these questions in the chat a little bit, but I think it actually would be really helpful for Mike to answer some too, and you kind of answer a little different section of this. So from Clifford Dean, Were there any surprises in your transition process that others might benefit from hearing about? Dakota, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then Mike, if you want to follow up.
Yeah, the first thing that I noticed was the first year of transitioning was the steep drop off of yield after we transitioned after not using conventional fertilizers. We went to using a organic fertilizer, Harmony Ag 543, and it was just a huge drop off in the yield, which we weren't expecting, but we just immediately panicked. Instead of panicking, we should have actually talked to organic farmers in the realm and would have known what to expect in that case. But once we got past the initial drop off in yield, the next season things started to come back and it started to get higher yields. So definitely don't get scared when you're transitioning, because it's going to be some changes. Definitely be prepared for what the unexpected.
I have to agree with you there. That first year is tough.
Yeah.
You better have some fallback plan in mind. I had it very fortunate. The guy that I was working with, my consultant, had actually helped me implement using the organic fertilizers that I could use. And we were reducing our fertilizers, trying to, get on board with it, but also trying to balance the nutritional minerals that were already in the soil. Um, so we were able to balance some of that off. But one of the biggest surprises I found, and it's probably been in the last number of years again, uh, because of where we're at, is starting to look at nutrient density of foods. I have went to open pollinated corn. When I actually went to open pollinated corn, I wondered why I went to it. And it was based on just wanting to save my own seed, but what was the difference in it? And I heard that it had more nutrition to it. So I tested that after my first year of growing, and I found that in a field where I had I had a hybrid corn and I had my open pollinated had 40% more nutrition in it. And as I've been studying this nutritional side of it, the nutritional density comes out of our soils. And that said, I found my small grains, which are now some of that same stuff, open pollinated, older heirloom varieties, the nutritional rates of those things is much higher than conventional values that are out there. That is one of the best things that I found. And as I read my consumers at market, the consumers are looking for that same thing. They've got more time to educate themselves than what I do. So I listen to my consumer for what they're looking for.
That's so fascinating. Thanks for sharing for you both. Our next question might get directed to you, but I think it'd be good for both of you to answer. So we'll start with you, Mike. Can you speak to the topic of your thought process as you added new things to your farm offerings?
Great question there. I saw that one come in. Thanks, Cliff, for that. And I'm still doing those same things. I just don't have quite the energy. And as I encourage this intern to work with me, I says, okay, as you come in here, we're going to continue where we're at. But when we add something in, and I expect you're going to have a little energy here yet, that we can start something, I can continue with what I have, but we can add in what you have. But I want to make sure that when you add something in, it's a positive addition to what's happening. So if I add in another species of animals, will that help? And that's my question. And I can say, yes, it will help, because now it's going to spread out that my rotation is going to get bigger. And to add in another species helps that out. We've diversified our plantings in our pastures. Currently planting a 10-way mix from Byron Seeds. That thing there is also created a whole biodiversity. And the reason we added those things in is because I was asking, what can it do to help me? In there was chicory, plantain, and bird's foot trefoil. All three of those contain a tannin that actually helped us maintain or control parasites in the animals. So there was a reason why we could shift to this diversified plantings out there. So when I'm asking, how do I figure out if I want to add something to the farm? and how it's going to fit. I'm asking, what's it doing for the soil? How is it increasing my soil? What is it doing to fix these things to make the whole system work better? And as I go forth from here, this is where we're at. I'm getting squeezed. I've got 3 cities within 10 miles of me that are encroaching from 3 different directions on my farm. And to the west, I'm next to Lake Michigan. So I don't have room to expand. I have to be able to do better with what I have here and make it work better for all of the systems around us.
Thanks, Mike.
So for us, if we're adding in a new cover crop, we have to think about things like what will it attract? Because one year we added a cover crop that attracted wild turkeys, deer, pest, things like that. So if we add a new cover crop, we have to be mindful of what they will attract in the wildlife. Another thing is if we're adding a new crop in, such as a new produce crop, like I don't know, like a carrot, is it going to help our soil? Is it going to change the amendments that we need to put into the ground? Is it gonna be profitable? Things like that. When we need to be mindful of when we add new things. But in a organic operation, we do notice that when you do add new things into the operation, it helps with different soil amendments. So when we add like a carrot, it would add more nutrients to the soil into our rotation rather than taking away from our nutrients. So we always mindful of what we're putting into the ground when we are growing.
Thanks to you both. That was great. I have one last question, and it might not be for you two, but it might be for some folks in the audience that are resource providers. Are there resources available to connect with the farmers looking to pass on their farm to new farmers? So if anybody in the chat wants to pop anything in, or if Mike or Dakota, if you have any resources or ideas on that you'd like to share.
I can share a little bit. As I've been in this situation, I've had to work with it. Yes, FSA does have some transitioning things in there. So we're looking at nationwide where we can look at those things. But locally here in the state of Michigan, we have a website. It's MI Farm Link. And I believe there's more farm links out there in different areas. But my farm link has farmers that are looking to transition and offering them up there. And as starting farmers, the starting farmers are asked to put their information out there as to what they want to do, how big they want to be, what they're looking for in land. I put mine on that same thing as a farmer and went looking for what I had to offer. And, currently I found a person there that was able to step in and wanted to, continue on. My farm is still listed out there. I'm limited to how many interns I can take here too, because I just got so many hours in a day that I can share this information with others.
Thanks, Mike.
For me, it was more so it was mostly family transitioning. So it went from my great-great-grandfather to my great-grandfather to my grandfather with was along with his brothers. They separated it into land plots. So everybody got 40 acres apiece. And then once his older brothers, because my grandfather was the youngest, he took over their land plots and he passed it down to my father, who passed it down to me. And when my father got ready to pass it down after about 20 years of growing, he was like, "Here, take it." So definitely was a little bit different, but I was prepared and I'm grateful that I went to school and learned more on agriculture before I just jumped in head first.
Wonderful. Thank you to you both for this insight, this time. We've just reached our full hour, and I really just want to say gratitude to you both for sharing your process, for working so hard in a system we know can be difficult. So I want to encourage everyone to check out our website. We've got a lot of great free resources. Please stay tuned. Thanks to you all, and we hope to see you at the next Seeds of Success to come.